Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Data Solutions for Marketing Hot Topics. I'm Jeanette Rumsey, Marketing Manager for AccuData, and today's webinar moderator. So before we get started, I'd like to review a few important items with you. First, questions can be submitted throughout today's webinar, but will be covered at the end of the presentation. Please use the Q&A panel within the GoToWebinar platform to submit your questions. And if there are questions we do not cover, you may email those to info@accudata.com for a prompt reply, or you can also call your AccuData account representative at 800-732-3440. Next, I'd like to go ahead and introduce you to today's presenters, Bethany McKay and Mark Scott. Both Bethany and Mark are Vice Presidents of Business Development with AccuData. They specialize in working with printers and mailers to help them maximize profits in all types of database marketing. So Mark, at this point, let's get started, and I'll turn things over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. What I wanted to do to kind of kick it off is just to set the stage for what we'll be talking about today. We're going to focus primarily on the key components of a direct marketing campaign. We want to talk about relevance both from a creative and messaging standpoint, as well as a list, data, and targeting perspective. We want to answer a question that our team is asked about on a daily basis, and that is, what's trending right now? What are the hot topics? What are people asking for? So we're going to cover 3 hot marketing trends that our team is experiencing today, primarily as we wrap up summer and roll into the fall season. So starting off, just talking about direct marketing in general, you may have heard about the 40-40-20 rule. It's been a formula for direct mail success for many, many years. When you think about a direct mail campaign, there are really 3 components. There's many components, but 3 that kind of have a large impact. First is the list or the target. Second being the offer. What is it that you're trying to communicate or provide? And then finally, the creative. How are you packaging it? What's the messaging look like? What is it that's going to make that relevant to the consumer? The one thing I want to mention is as we move from your traditional offline direct mail stage to a digital era, there are people have started to talk about or argued that the creative can sometimes hold a higher weight in the digital world than it may in the offline world. But the thing you want to keep in mind is that no matter what the percentages end up being, these are the 3 key things that you definitely want to focus on when you're putting together a direct marketing campaign.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about relevance and personalization. We have a few statistics here that I think that you'll find interesting. 74% of adults surveyed said that they wish that there were more products and services that were customized to their personal needs and tastes. So I think of who doesn't love getting an offer that actually suits you to a T, something that when you get it, you're excited about it because it really fits you and your personality. From a loyalty perspective, 70% of people surveyed said they're actually more loyal to a company that makes an effort to get to know what their needs are, what their tastes and preferences are. You know, is the company paying attention to my information, what I'm looking for, what my past purchases are, how often I purchase, and when? And from a revenue standpoint, 70% of the people surveyed said they were actually willing to pay for a premium service for attention and personalized service. We live in a time where really personalized services have become huge, and they're offering just about everything everywhere, and consumers are loving it. So when we talk about personalization, we want to personalize as much as possible. However, we do have to be careful that we don't want to overstep a line and become too personal. We want to avoid using words in our marketing that imply that we have a knowledge about someone individually. We definitely don't want to talk about anything that's personally identifiable. Consumers tend to get more skeptical when they get a mail piece that looks too personal, almost borderlining on stalkerish. It can actually hurt response. We want to frame up our offer and frame up our mail piece when we know information about somebody based on the selection criteria that we've used. So let's take diabetes, for example. If you were doing a marketing campaign for a company that perhaps offered diabetes supplies, and they pulled a marketing list of people who had self-reported that they actually had diabetes, you wouldn't want to say in your marketing piece, "Hi, Mr. Jones, we know you have diabetes. Take a look at what we can offer you." You would want to say something more generic like, "If someone in your household has diabetes, look at the products that may suit you." You want to use your criteria in selecting to influence your creative design, your photography, your colors using variable printing. For example, if you're marketing a product or service to people who are maybe in the 65 and over age crowd, you'd want to show a picture of people who are 65 and over, maybe an older couple enjoying life, doing something that might pertain to what the offer is. And if you're marketing something that's more of a family product or something geared for children, the imagery on your mail piece might want to show a young family with children. So when the consumer sees that, they relate to the creative and they can relate to the offer as well.
Perfect. So let's talk about the first topic. First, I want to kind of frame up how this presentation is going to go. So first, we're going to talk about the topic itself. We want to talk about the market trend that we're experiencing right now. We want to tell you more about the target themselves, and then we want to give you some ideas of tools that you can use in order to target that market. So for our first one, we're going to talk about two things, primarily the senior market and also kind of the trend right now with Medicare open enrollment time period being basically coming upon us. So let's first talk about the senior market. So believe it or not, the baby boomers are aging into the senior category. So as many know, it is the largest market segment in the United States from a population standpoint. 10,000 baby boomers are going to turn 65 every single day between now and the year 2026. The senior market as a whole, if you think about it, 80% of seniors have at least one chronic medical condition, but the most important or the more impactful fact is that over 30% have 4 or more. What does that mean? It means that these consumers are in need of offers or information related to their medical condition. They're in need of more services now than they ever were in the past. So being as a marketer, using the demographics or other data attributes that you have at your fingertips to be able to effectively target and message to this market is key. So we're going to talk about some more of the different attributes that we have available here on the next slide. The reason why we talk about senior marketing is mainly the Medicare open enrollment time period. Right now, from October 15th to about December 7th is the open enrollment period when those that have Medicare benefits currently can make changes to things like their Medicare prescription drug coverage, their supplement plans, things like that. What our teams are being asked for primarily right now is those that are over 65 that are already basically eligible for Medicare benefits, and also throughout the year asking for those that are aging in. So typically you can start to make decisions about supplement plans and Medicare coverage extensions and things like that within about a 90-day time period before you turn 65. So that's just something to keep in mind from a kind of a trending standpoint. Those are 2 hot buttons right now. For identifying seniors, we talked about how large the population is, right, as far as baby boomers and the generation before, but being able to target them by different attributes helps you make the message that you're trying to get across more relevant. So there's 3 key areas here. First, demographics. Think about things like age or date of birth, their income, their home value, net worth, assets, gender, marital status. All of the standard demographics that you have are really important, even when you're just segmenting through this population. More importantly, now if you need to go a step beyond general demographics, the senior market has, especially in the Medicare or insurance space, indexes that are already built that will show you the propensity for a prospect to respond to a type of offer, whether it's a Medicare Advantage plan, it's a supplement plan, their likelihood to qualify for a certain type of insurance coverage. Those indexes are already built and can be used to help you segment a marketplace to get your offer out there. If you're not in the insurance space, but you are working with seniors in a different capacity, there are other attributes that are available from an ailment, a prescription drug coverage standpoint, things like that, where if you're looking to target, as Bethany mentioned earlier, somebody who has a specific type of ailment or takes a specific type of drug, all of this data is self-reported by the consumer. The consumer that's offered up the information is expecting to hear of offers and get information related to their ailment or condition. So it's not anything you have to worry about from a HIPAA compliance standpoint or diving too deep into somebody's personal medical records. 100% self-reported. So these are all ways that you can target the prospect or kind of sift through the universe. The next two things that I'm going to talk about are different tools that you can use to maximize your reach into the market itself. The first one being Source Plus. This market, this senior market, is highly direct mail responsive. These folks have grown up with direct mail as being a primary communication tool. So therefore, offers and things related to senior needs are very well received coming from a direct mail channel. If you're using a single source data provider now, meaning one single file that you're using for your general prospecting efforts, Source Plus is a way that you can maximize or extend the reach that you have into a given geographic or demographic market by looking across multiple files. What it means is that one file has X number of names and addresses available. We then go to source number 2 and say, great, give me everything that source number 1 didn't have, and we get a list. And we can continue that process until we reach the quantity that either A, you're comfortable with mailing, or B, you want to maximize the reach across an entire geographic set. That's something that we can do with Source Plus. It battles list fatigue. It gives you the ability to reach prospects that you may be missing if you're just using a single source file. It's just a way to make sure that you're in front of the entire marketplace. I'd like to give you an example of a client of mine that I dealt with that was a new client to AccuData, and they came to us having a data provider already in place that they were happy with. There was nothing wrong with the file. The file itself was performing. What had happened over a period of time was that they had started to see diminishing returns based on the same prospects that they were mailing to over and over again, aka list fatigue. They were starting to think that they may be missing out on some prospects in their marketplace that they needed to kind of figure out a way to find. So we took their file, we suppressed it against 2 other data sets that we were using, and found that we, using 2 other files, were able to almost double the number of prospects they had available for their offer. Is it standard to have a 50% lift? Absolutely not. Typically, you'll see 20, maybe 30%, or sometimes 40% more consumers than a single source file. But because of their specific business rules and the way that they've got their marketing set up, we were able to almost double their universe, and that was huge for them. So again, it's something that you should consider if you know your marketing, you know your geography and your demographics. It's a way to maximize the reach. The second solution is actually a really interesting one, and it's called Family Ties, and it's a way to target or link multiple households together or that are part of a family relationship that do not reside in the same at the same address or in the same household. Think about a senior parent and an adult child, and being able to message to that adult child about the needs that the senior parent might be having, even if they're in a completely different address, in a different city, in a different state. The way that the file is built is it's based on about 25 years of historical address information that is aggregated together to link these 2 households together. At one point we're together and now they're separate. The best part about this database is you can target demographic or lifestyle attributes based on either, say, the senior parent or the adult child. So the reason we use this data most often is for senior living, senior communities, assisted living, things like that, where sometimes you're trying to message to the adult child that is helping the parent make decisions about what their next step is when completely independent living no longer becomes a fit for them. So knowing that you have the option to target either side of that family relationship based on their attributes is key. And next we're going to roll into topic number 2 with Bethany.
All right, so I'm going to jump in and we're going to talk a little bit about our next kind of hot list, and that is back to school, shopping, and holiday buying, all of which I am super excited about. So back to school dates around the country are really regional. So here in Florida, most of our kids have actually started their school year, while up in the north and the Midwest, a lot of schools really don't start until after Labor Day and into September. So there's still time for this to be a marketing effort. So let's talk a little bit about some spending and some dollars and what's going on out in the marketplace. So families reported spending actually slightly less on back to school in 2015, but if you look back over the last 10 years, the back to school spend for school and college has actually increased 42%, which is significant. And you actually may notice that when you're out shopping and doing things, retailers start marketing back to school almost right after the last school year ended. They start clearing racks, doing clearance, and bringing in all of those products. Some families actually also often wait until back to school has kind of been underway, and they'll try to come in at the end of it, so towards the end of September, to pick up on all of the different items that have now gone on sale to make way for the holiday spend. So back to school and back to college, people are spending on grade school children $630 on different supplies, electronics, and apparel, while families that are sending a child back to college are spending about $900. For those of you who are parents, you might feel like those numbers are really small. I think they actually might be a little bit higher. So next up, after we get through back to school, we move into fall, and then guess what's coming? It's the holiday shopping season. This is huge for retailers and different types of marketers. So once we get past Labor Day, we move right in, and if you've been out shopping, you've seen there are Christmas trees up in the retail stores already. Black Friday is a huge shopping day, as everyone knows, and there's a lot of activity ahead of that. Small Business Saturday is actually something that is growing significantly year to year and gaining a lot of traction and a lot of marketing surrounding it. And then, of course, from a email and digital perspective, Cyber Monday is a big, big shopping day. So let me just throw out a little number. You've got about 121 days to get that shopping started. It's coming soon. So let's talk about some different ways that we can identify our shoppers. I'm going to be on all of these lists, but if you're looking for families, you can actually find families and tie into what the product is, what the product line is, or who the retailer is, and identify people within a household that are going to fit. If it's a child, product, you want to make sure you know that there's a presence of children. Perhaps the children's age is important. Maybe the products are going to work only for children of a certain age or a certain school year. You can also look at student data and find high school students, people who have indicated while they're in high school that they intend to go to college. And then another big one, Mark kind of mentioned the tie-in with families and the Family Ties product. Grandparents and grandchildren are big in terms of shopping, especially for the holidays, but even back to school in other ways, there's a big connection now with grandparents doing a lot of the shopping and being more involved. The next kind of way in which you can identify some of these folks is looking at their buying history or transactional data. A lot of the different databases will overlay buying activity, and you can identify households that have a high economic activity, a large consumer prominence, people who are buying certain types of products, and then even more importantly, how are they buying them? Are they buying them through catalog? Are they buying them online? Are they going into a brick and mortar store? Those are all important, and they're all going to kind of feed into information that can be used on the back end, like RFM, and that all kind of ties together. Another great selection tool for these types of offers is using modeled credit. And I'll throw out there first, this is not coming from anyone's credit report. This is not FCRA compliant type of data. This is data that you can use and add into your demographic mix to just kind of identify folks who maybe fall into a category where if the product is a higher price item, maybe it's a computer or a laptop, and maybe you want to offer some sort of a payment plan or something around that which you can extend the way in which someone pays, pulling a modeled credit is going to allow you to maybe eliminate people on the low end, perhaps eliminate people on the high end, depending on what type of offer this is. It's really more of an invitation to apply or a way to really just refine your target. So when we talk about all of this great information, I mentioned in the buying history, looking at people who are making some online purchases, a great way to get after these folks is our other solution, which is really email. You can deliver a valuable marketing message right into the hands of these future buyers, and it's easy to do. It launches very quickly. You can identify these people the same way in which you identify them through a direct mail campaign or in conjunction with a direct mail campaign that's going out the door. Once you launch an email campaign, say you're driving them to a landing page or to a website, you can monitor the back-end traffic and see that people are actually going to that page. You can monitor how long they've stayed, and then we provide tracking reports after the campaign goes that'll give you an idea of how many people actually opened your email and how many people clicked through the links And then you can look at that on the back end to determine how many conversions you got and what your success rate was. There's a couple other things that you want to take into consideration when you're doing email, and that is on the creative side. You want to make sure that you are optimizing your creative for a mobile device. 50% or more, and that number creeps up every time I see the statistic, are opening email messages via a smartphone. So when we talk about mobile optimization, that is making that creative render appropriately on a smartphone, so when they get the email and open it, they don't have to scroll up and down and around in order to see what they're looking for and find the correct buttons and links to click. And the statistic over on the side of the page is great, and it kind of speaks to the importance of connecting with these folks by email. 66% of online consumers made a purchase as a result of an email marketing message. That's a pretty big statistic. So the next solution we're going to talk about, kind of in the same vein here, is Facebook advertising. I know a lot of people have heard of Facebook advertising, may have even dipped their toes in the water, but there's some different ways in which you can look at Facebook advertising than maybe some of the traditional ways. We like to do things that kind of tie in the digital marketing back to the postal, back to the direct mail, so that we can touch these folks in many different ways and create impressions in different ways, and also learn about their channel preference. Using Facebook is one of the ways in which you can do that. You can actually take a list of current customers that a client has, or you can identify prospects based on any demographic and psychographic attributes that you like. Then you can actually display an advertisement via their Facebook newsfeed only to those individuals. It goes just to them. It's private. It's safe. They have the means to click on it, go through to a website, and review it for other information. And you're just basically backing up the same thing that you've done on the direct mail side to the Facebook side and email as well. So that tip over on the side of the page there is talking about being cohesive with your creative. If you're using multiple channels, you want to make sure that you optimize your creative so it looks the same, has the same look and feel and messaging across all of these different platforms. That way, if somebody gets a piece a couple different ways, it's going to they're going to remember seeing the other, and it's going to drive them to maybe make a little bit more of a response. You want to keep all these things targeted. You know, just because we're doing things online doesn't mean we have to go back to kind of the spray and pray type of marketing where we just put it out to everybody. You can still be very targeted even in the digital.
Exactly. Our final topic that we want to talk about today is voter and politically related data. The thing that, say what you will about the election, but the one thing that you can't deny is the fact that it's coming on strong this year, and believe it or not, the Iowa caucus is only 6 months away. So it's already been speculated that from a fundraising standpoint, this upcoming presidential campaign could top $1 billion. So it's a hot button topic. Whether you are working with a political candidate or not, it's not necessarily that voter data doesn't always necessarily have to be used for just politically charged reasons. You can use the information that you from somebody's party lines to kind of get an idea from a views and kind of value standpoint where this person may sit, what side of the house are they on. So you could think conservative versus liberal, independent, things like that. Bethany is going to step us through some of the different attributes that we have from a kind of a political or a voter donation standpoint and things like that, so she can walk us through some of the different ways that we can target the audience.
All right, so let's talk about how we're going to identify these folks. We get this question a lot. Can you identify voters? Can you identify them by the party that they are affiliated with, and all kinds of information? So let's go through some of your options. Voter data is great. So you can actually identify folks who are registered voters and the party that they've indicated they're affiliated with. You can also pull things based on a political district. It's not always the same as zip codes and counties, which we're so used to, but often if it's some sort of a political campaign, that person can only kind of preside over a certain area. Pulling it by their district will actually hone in on the right geography where it's going to be relevant to those consumers. And you can also get people based on a voting history. Just being a registered voter with a particular party doesn't always tell the whole story. They may be registered and they may not have voted in a long time, or perhaps it's on the flip side and they're voting all the time. Those are going to have different messaging and different needs. From a demographic standpoint, all of the same demographics are going to apply here. You can look at people based on the age, their income, Ethnicity and religion are going to be important, as Mark said. Sometimes you can back into understanding a person a little bit more based on some other feelings they may have or alignment that's going to come from something outside of just their voter data. Ethnicity and religion is one of those. Occupation, presence of children, what's going to be important to them. Perhaps a political offer is focusing on one particular stance that they're making, and it requires that the household has children. Maybe it's education, something like that. And then finally, social concerns. These are big. If you think about all the things they talk about in the debates and all the things that come up in the political world, a lot of it has to do with some things that are really more social concerns. The environment and wildlife. You hear about global warming. You hear about people from a religious standpoint, as I mentioned, people who are very much about veterans' causes. We can identify people in the different consumer databases based on self-reported lifestyles, donations, and interests that they have or social concerns that they have that can very easily kind of correlate with one of these types of campaigns.
Bethany talked about delivering a cohesive message no matter what your channel is. So we're going to talk about these last two topics here, and it's all about really making sure that you're communicating the same thing and segmenting it as best as possible. When you're developing your creative or content, that just make sure that you're using tools that you've got available to you. If you have the capability to do variable print, use it. We can make sure that we deliver the fields to you to feed that machine, to make sure that it knows how you can vary images, how you can vary copy, how you can add personalization tags or personalized URLs. Your AccuData rep can help you make that happen. Remember the 40-40-20 rule that we talked about earlier. You have the right list now. Make sure that you segment the audience on this list and create a piece that's going to really speak to them, what's going to resonate with them and increase engagement with your offer or your message. The final tool that I want to talk to you about today or introduce you to is direct IP targeting. Display advertising on the internet is not a new concept. Direct IP targeting, though, is a different way to approach online display advertising that may not be something that you've used in the past. When we talk about direct marketing, and Bethany mentioned it a couple different ways, we're a database marketing company. What does not matter what channel that you're in, we have the ability to isolate a consumer based on different demographic and lifestyle attributes. Now, with direct IP targeting, you have the same ability to locate that person online and serve ads just to them as they're in their normal browsing history on the internet. These are not the intrusive pop-up bannery type ads that you probably have seen in the past. These are literally just buying placement on sites within a network where if you come home at night and you're surfing the internet, doing your online shopping, doing whatever, checking the news and things like that, you may see some ads that go across the top and down the margin of that page. Those may be targeted ads directly targeted to you. The best part about it is if you marry that with direct mail, now you've sent them a direct mail offer, so you've got an impression there. It may have come from the mailbox and it's sitting on their kitchen table, and now they've opened up their laptop and they're doing their thing at night, and now you've got another ad that's completely in front of them. IP display ads are actionable immediately, right? It's interactive. The consumer can go, click on the ad, land on a page, get some more information, possibly even make a purchase if e-commerce is an option, right? But you can track that engagement immediately. You can see how that consumer is interacting with your site and where they're showing the interest. So direct IP targeting is something that if you're interested in adding another channel to your already existing direct mail program, talk to your AccuData rep. They can absolutely help you set that up.
Wonderful. So we are going to wrap up a little bit, and then we're going to get to some questions that we have had come in. So I just want to kind of touch on, why AccuData? Some of you on the line have probably been customers of ours for a very long time, and some of you may be new. So I just wanted to touch on a few things that are really important to us. We've been around for nearly 25 years and have been dedicated to addressing our partners' challenges with innovation and service. And when we say partner, we really mean it. We want to be a partner to our customers and have a different kind of relationship than a vendor-customer. We really want to understand your business and help you grow. We have a lot of tenure here. Mark's been with the company 15 years. I'm going on 18, and much of our sales team is in that same time frame. We have a large customer service staff, and when you call in, you're going to talk to a live person, which is fantastic. We also offer a lot of online tools that you're welcome to look at. You're also welcome to view those, get a walkthrough, and we're happy to help in any way. We really understand that direct marketing is going to perform at its best when the audience is very targeted and the message is relevant. That's why we offer multiple files. We are always available for consultation. If you have a client that comes to you and they say, here's what I want to do, and you are stumped and can't think of anything, call us. We want to talk through it, come up with ideas, and help you figure out what you might be able to pitch to help the client achieve what they're looking for. And we have a ton of expertise that we're always willing to share, so don't hesitate. So now let's get to a few questions.
Excellent. So we have quite a few that have come in. Folks, I'd like to remind you, please go ahead and use the Q&A panel to submit your questions, and we'll go ahead and get started with these. So, Mark, I'm going to send this first question to you. Are you able to target people turning 65 within the next 3 months?
Yeah, and I may have touched on this a little bit earlier too. Yes, the answer is yes. We do have date of birth available on many of the records, and another thing is that using Source Plus, we can make sure that we look across multiple files to get the maximum number of people that may be turning 65 within that time period. So it's selectable by month and by year.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. And Mark, I've got another question I'm going to go ahead and send your way. This is concerning Facebook advertising, and we have a question. We have one of our attendees that's looking for us to expand on using the side list rather than the targeted demographics supplied by Facebook. And is this a service that AccuData can provide?
Yes. It is a service that we can provide. We can take your name and address data and match it to users that are available on Facebook, and that way the ad that you are serving goes to just those specific users. The biggest difference between that and just doing targeted demographics on Facebook is the folks that will see your ad will only be the people that you provide on the list rather than somebody that just happens to meet the demographics in that marketplace.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. So our next question, Bethany, I'm going to pass to you. We have someone that's asking about multiple store locations, and are we able to tie prospects to the store that is closest to their address?
Absolutely. We have a proximity-based multi-radius functionality whereby we use the addresses of the store location and then go out from there to find the households that live the closest. We key code the records with a store ID so that when they get it back, they can actually use that to version the mail pieces if they're putting a map or a location on there. It's easy to do.
Okay, fantastic. And Bethany, this is going to be another question for you. Can you talk a little bit about our postal address to IP address match rates?
Sure. Over the course of the last few months, our match rate is somewhere in between about 45 to 50% matching. So when we plug in those postal addresses, we're able to come back and give you about half the IP addresses so you can display and add to them.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. We've got a lot of people that are asking about copies of the slides. Absolutely, we will be providing those to you. Your account representative will be following up with you this afternoon following the webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and give another question to Bethany. This one is regarding voter data and the sourcing that is used to compile that information.
Sure. There's a couple different options you have with regard to the voter data. Some of it is actually self-reported, so often it's included in surveys. It's a question that comes up, and that's then overlaid on the consumer data under lifestyle or interest data. And then there is actually more specialized files for voters where they compile it through actual voter registration information. That's where we can get the how many times they voted and the party affiliation and things like that that I mentioned earlier.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Mark, here's another question for you, please. Are you able to identify prospects by their religious denomination?
We are. We have a coding system that allows us to identify religious affiliation and also ethnicity. So both of those are options.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Mark, another question for you. We have an attendee that would like a little bit more information on mobile optimization and what it is exactly.
Okay. Mobile optimization basically means that no matter what device the HTML, the messaging that you're sending in a digital format is opened in, that it's readable. So when you mobile optimize a message, think about the difference between a regular website and a mobile optimized, like a mobile version of a website. I'm sure everybody's seen this if they browse somewhere from their smartphone. Sometimes you land on a mobile version of the site, and it's easy to read, it's easy to navigate. If you're creative, if your email message is not mobile optimized, Bethany kind of mentioned earlier, there's pinching, there's zooming, there's scrolling, and really you just lose engagement. So make sure the code's written in a way where it shrinks to fit the device that it's on. It's easy to navigate, because really you don't want to make it any harder. You want to make it as easy as possible for the recipient to action on the message.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mark. Bethany, I'm going to give this next question to you, please. We have someone that works with a senior living facility, and they are looking to target new residents. Do you have some recommendations that you can share?
Sure. Actually, there are a lot of possibilities to find some seniors that would fit that marketing. I'd start geographically and maybe use some demographics. Definitely using Source Plus, like Mark explained, to find everybody who fits your criteria across multiple files is going to be key here, maximizing your coverage and hitting everybody. We can use date of birth. We can use estimated income data for targeting. I know income is always important, so senior living, it's going to cost a little bit of money. There are some other things that folks will look at from a income-producing assets and net worth and different financial categories. And then you can segment your mail pieces based on anything else that you might pull. Married, single, there's a whole host of different demographics you can include, but yep, we can certainly find those.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, we've got a couple more questions that have come in, and we're going to go ahead and direct those to your specific account representative so that we can make sure you have all of the detailed information you need, including any of the requests that were specific to pricing. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and conclude today's webinar. We certainly thank you for taking the time to be with us today, and on behalf of Bethany, Mark, and the entire team, again, our thanks. I invite you to contact us for any questions that you have related to audience targeting or the other products and services that we offer. Thank you and have a fantastic day.